Story 1. I run a street food cart in Thailand, and an American Karen started screaming at me because her pad thai didn't taste like the one back home. She was yelling loud enough that tourists were backing away. She slammed the plate on my counter and shouted, "Make it like America!" I smiled and said, "This is Thailand. We already have one America. It is enough." People around us burst out laughing. She turned bright red, grabbed her food, and disappeared down the street without another word. Story 2. I was working in a cafe in Spain when an American Karen started berating my coworker because her cappuccino wasn't tall enough. She kept yelling that Starbucks makes it bigger. Finally, my coworker leaned over and said, "Then go to Starbucks, I don't work there." She demanded the manager. I stepped forward. "I am the manager." She froze, stared at both of us, and stormed out without her drink. She left her sunglasses behind, and we put them in the lost and found under drama goggles. Story 3. I was selling handmade jewelry at a market in Mexico when an American Karen pushed past 3 customers and slapped a bracelet onto my table. She shouted, "This is fake, refund me now." I asked when she bought it. She said, "I haven't bought it yet, but I can tell it's fake." I stared at her for a full 2 seconds and said, "So you want a refund for something you didn't purchase?" She opened her mouth, closed it, stared around like someone might save her, then walked away silently while the entire line tried not to laugh. Story 4. I work at a ramen shop in Japan. An American Karen absolutely snapped because we wouldn't give her a fork. She slammed her chopsticks onto the counter and screamed, "You have to accommodate tourists." I bowed politely and said, "We do, but not tantrums." She demanded the manager. My mother came out. My mother is 5 feet tall and terrifying. She stared the Karen down and said, "Use the chopsticks." The woman sat down instantly and ate in complete silence. Story 5. I was a driver for a tour group in Iceland. One American Karen got mad that the northern lights were not bright enough. She yelled at me like I controlled the sky through a dimmer switch. "Turn them up," she screamed. I told her calmly, "Madam, they are lights, not Netflix." The rest of the bus laughed so hard she refused to get back on after the stop. We left her with her husband. He tipped me extra. Story 6. I work at a luxury store in Dubai. An American Karen started throwing a fit because the bag she wanted wasn't on sale. She started yelling that, in America, customers are royalty. I told her, in Dubai, royalty is royalty. She went silent so fast I thought she froze. A security guard walked by and she suddenly became polite enough to curtsy. Yes, she curtsied to the guard. We still talk about it. Story 7. I'm a chef in Italy. An American Karen sent her pasta back 3 times because it was too al dente. I explained each time that al dente is the correct texture here. On the 4th screaming round, my grandmother came out of the kitchen. My grandmother does not speak English, but she walked straight to the Karen, tilted her head, and said in Italian, "If you want mush, go boil it yourself." The entire restaurant applauded. Karen left without finishing anything. Story 8. I work at a little surf shack in Australia. An American Karen screamed at me because the ocean was too rough, and she wanted me to calm it down. She actually pointed at the waves and yelled, "Fix it." I said, "Ma'am, I'm not Poseidon," she demanded the owner. I said, "He isn't Poseidon either." She stomped into the water to prove it was safe enough. A small wave knocked her straight onto her butt. She came out limping like she had fought a shark. Story 9. I was waiting tables in Paris when an American Karen snapped her fingers at me and shouted, "Hurry! I'm starving." I nodded, then served the couple next to her first. She went ballistic. She demanded to know why they got their food first. I leaned in and said, "Because they said please." A man at the next table clapped once loudly. She shut her mouth and didn't speak again until she asked for the check in the smallest voice possible. Story 10. I work at a souvenir stand in Greece. An American Karen threw a magnet at me because it didn't look like the picture online. I said the picture was of Santorini, and we were not in Santorini. She screamed that Greece should match the photos. A fisherman sitting nearby laughed so hard he nearly fell out of his chair. He looked at her and said, "We will repaint the country for you tomorrow." She left in total silence. Story 11. I work at a café in Portugal, and an American Karen freaked out because her pastel de nata wasn't as sweet as the ones in America. She slammed it on the counter and yelled that we needed to fix it immediately. My co-worker, a quiet older man, looked at her and said, "Maybe your country just likes things sweeter because the people aren't." The whole café laughed. She didn't say another word. Story 12. In Costa Rica, I guided a group on a rainforest tour. An American Karen spent the entire walk complaining that nature was too loud, that the insects were aggressive, and that she wanted the animals removed from the area before she continued. Our local guide, who has been working there for 30 years, pointed at the trees and said, "Ma'am, the jungle was here before all of us. You are the visitor. Behave like one." She actually gasped and kept quiet for the rest of the tour. Story 13. I was working at a market stall in India when an American Karen accused me of overcharging her because she's white. She yelled so loudly people started staring. My grandmother, who sits at the stall knitting all day, leaned over and said in perfect Hindi, "I charge you extra because you're annoying, not because you're white." A whole group nearby cracked up. The Karen walked away red-faced without buying anything. Story 14. I drive taxis in Scotland. An American Karen climbed in and immediately told me I was driving wrong. I asked her how she thought cars worked here. She said, "Like America, obviously." I told her, "If you want to drive like America, you're welcome to swim back and try." She shut up so fast the rest of the ride was silent. Story 15. I work front desk at a hotel in Switzerland. An American Karen demanded a refund because the mountains blocked her view of the sunrise. She wanted us to move her room to somewhere more scenic. My boss looked at her and said, "Madam, the mountains are the scenic part." She stared at him for 10 seconds and then muttered, "Well, still." That was the whole comeback. Story 16. In Morocco, a Karen started screaming that our restaurant was price gouging tourists. She told us she deserved a discount because she was bringing culture to the country. The server handed her the menu and said, "The only thing you brought was noise." Everyone eating nearby burst out laughing. She left without finishing her drink. Story 17. I worked as a server in South Korea. An American Karen threw a meltdown because we didn't offer free bread. She kept shouting, "Every restaurant gives free bread." My manager stepped over and said, "We serve food, not expectations you packed from home." She blinked and sat down quietly, like someone unplugged her. Story 18. In Australia, I was teaching a surf lesson when an American Karen demanded the ocean be safer for her kids. I said the tides were small that day. She screamed that the waves were too disrespectful. One of the local surfers paddled by and yelled, "If the ocean disrespects you, it's because it met you first." Even I had trouble keeping a straight face. Story 19. I worked at a gelato shop in Croatia. An American Karen said our flavors were too real and demanded artificial ones because that's what gelato should taste like. My co-worker shrugged and said, "If you want fake food, fake country is over there," and pointed vaguely west. She sputtered something about customer service and walked out without buying anything. Story 20. I run a bar in Ireland. An American Karen started screaming because we wouldn't turn the music off for her phone call. She yelled that she needed quiet to focus. One of the old regulars shouted back, "We need quiet too, sweetheart, mostly from you." The entire pub roared. She left immediately and didn't finish her drink. Story 21. I work at a family-run inn in Norway. An American Karen started yelling because the sauna wasn't hot enough for her standards. She demanded we turn it up to American-level hot. My uncle walked in, checked the temperature, and said, "If we make it hotter, you will cook." She told him that was rude. He nodded and said, "Yes, so is shouting at people about a free sauna." She sat down immediately and didn't complain again. Story 22. In Turkey, I was serving at a carpet shop when an American Karen barged in screaming that the rugs were too expensive for foreigners and she deserved a discount as a sign of respect. The owner, a calm older man, folded his arms and said, "Ma'am, respect is free, discounts are not." She tried arguing, but several customers laughed. She left in silence while the owner winked at me. Story 23. I worked at a rental counter in New Zealand. An American Karen demanded a refund because the car she rented didn't make her look rich enough. She kept repeating that phrase like it was a mechanical issue. When she started yelling at me, another Kiwi standing behind her said, "If you want to look rich, stop acting broke." I swear she shrank 2 inches. She left without even finishing her complaint. Story 24. In Vietnam, I was guiding a small boat tour along the river. An American Karen yelled at me because the water was not clear enough for her photos. She demanded I take her to the clear water section. I told her there was no such thing. She kept yelling until another local woman paddled by and said, "If you want clear water, buy a bottle." The Karen sat there with her mouth open like a fish. Everyone else laughed. Story 25. I worked at a bar in Greece. An American Karen threw a meltdown because her cocktail didn't taste like the one she had in Las Vegas. She kept shouting that we needed to follow international standards. The bartender pointed at her drink and said, "This is Greece. The standard is enjoyment. You seem unfamiliar." She tried to retort, but nothing came out except a weak, "Well," and then she just sipped the drink silently. Story 26. In South Africa, I helped host safari tours. An American Karen yelled at us because the lions were too far away and demanded we move them closer. One of the guides, without breaking eye contact, said, "You can walk closer if you want, but we won't be responsible for what happens to you or the lions." She sat down and buckled her seatbelt tighter than anyone else on the truck. Story 27. In Argentina, I waited tables at a steakhouse. An American Karen demanded her steak be well done but still juicy, not dry, and also bigger but cheaper. When I said that was impossible, she shouted that Americans know meat better than anyone. The chef leaned out of the kitchen and said, "Madam, Argentina exists." The whole place burst into applause. She didn't ask for anything else. Story 28. I worked in a café in France. An American Karen ranted because we didn't offer drip coffee. She yelled that every café in the world should serve it. The barista calmly said, "This is a café, not an embassy." She didn't understand, so he added, "We don't represent your country." Even she had to shut up after that. Story 29. In Kenya, I was selling handcrafted souvenirs when an American Karen insisted I lower the price because I could get this cheaper at Walmart. I told her, "Then you should buy it at Walmart." She said Walmart wasn't here. I said, "Exactly." 2 other tourists laughed so loud she walked away immediately. Story 30. I worked at a spa in Bali. An American Karen exploded because her massage wasn't hard enough and demanded the masseuse use American strength. The masseuse, who was 5 feet tall and dangerously patient, nodded, placed her hands on Karen's shoulders, and applied the tiniest bit of extra pressure. Karen yelped so loudly it echoed. The masseuse stepped back and said, "That was Bali strength. America is not ready." Karen didn't speak again. If you enjoyed these stories, make sure you subscribe for more.